Welcome to This Old App, a podcast about learning, coding, smashing stuff together, breaking things apart, startups, failing, winning, and any other buzzwords we can think of.
Hey, Randy. So this week wanted to talk a little bit about Alexa and the building of skills and what I'm seeing as far as from Amazon, the Alexa dev team or the dev evangelist team themselves.
Before we go any farther, can you get a towel and put it over your Echo devices so that I'm not worried about it recording and sending to random people?
No, I'm using the Echo to record this podcast. So no, not really. Yeah, no kidding. I'm in the middle of building a skill, and so I'm going to go buy 2 or 3 more devices, including devices with cameras. So it's going to go from video, from audio only to audio and video. So I don't know. I may get an overlay on the camera. I may not. But yeah, no, there was that story this week about a conversation getting forwarded to someone, and it's a weird story, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was a third-party skill that caused that to happen, or if it was internal.
No, they had an explanation now. They came out. They basically said that in a conversation that this couple was having, they triggered the device, and then another word that they said triggered a recording, or actually, no. They triggered the device somehow. The next step was they triggered send a message to someone. So it wasn't that the device was listening all the time and then just said, oh, I'm going to randomly send a message to someone on your contact list. It was something in their discussion triggered 2 different things that then made that happen. So they happen to be talking about hardwood floors and not robbing a bank. That's the idea, I guess, is
right.
It wasn't listening, and the device didn't decide, oh, there's something malicious going on in this conversation. Let me send it to this individual. It was, they were talking about hardwood floors or something, and it just randomly triggered off of commands it didn't get. Now, Megan and I are watching TV often, and all of a sudden the device, Alexa, just triggers and goes off for no reason. And I'm like, there's nothing on this TV that remotely said that trigger word. Is that they call the invocation? What do they call it? Yeah,
it's the invocation.
Like nothing on TV said anything remotely similar to the invocation. And we don't know why. And the device is confused. It's always like, I don't know what you're talking about. And we're like, we don't know why you're asking, So it's one of those things that if you pay attention to technology and building products, these kind of bugs are not abnormal. Like I said last week, Alexa to me feels like talking to a Palm Pilot. And I still stand by that. I feel like whatever this is right now, down the road, you're going to see a landfill full of little pucks that are Amazon Echoes. And we're going to have a new version of it that is way better, and it's maybe by a different company or a company that Amazon buys. But I don't feel like we are at this point where this is working well enough to be a habitually used product right now. But I'm also, I hear kids are adopting it differently than adults, so that I could be wrong on that.
So I want to unpack a ton of things in there.
Sure.
First, you gave me a great idea for a skill to build, is that, hey, if the user says anything about hardwood floors, send that conversation to a flooring company and let them follow up for a sales call.
Oh God. Well, it's that whole thing of when you go to Amazon and you look for, let's say you buy a lamp and then you go to a website and then there's ads for lamps all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And it's more like, I bought the lamp. I don't need to see that ad anymore.
Right.
Versus I was looking at let's say I was looking for those front door cameras and I haven't bought it. Amazon should tell the ads like, hey, by the way, they bought this. You don't need to advertise to them. But instead it freaks people out because they feel like they're being watched. And I know it's an algorithm that's just lazily saying, hey, they looked at this item, so show them more of other items like that. But that's the whole idea. To me, that would kill the business.
Right.
If all of a sudden you talk in the open air to your wife about a trip to Cancun and all of a sudden travel agencies start pinging you, like that would to me scare the crap out of, like, it would destroy privacy trust with the device.
Right. And that's why they always say that you've got to use the invocation word to actually get it to do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, we started off on a negative note on something I'm very positive about. But the other thing, so to try and bring it back to the positive, you're right that it's still in its infancy. And a lot of the work I've been seeing by the dev evangelism team has been, we have to get these skills more conversational. They have to be less command and response and more having a conversation.
Yeah. So
when you're building your skills, you need to be thinking in terms of conversation, because that's what's going to make it work. That's what's going to make it take off. It's what's going to make it popular. I do think there are use cases where command structure is what you want. So you say something and it responds back, and it's a very commanding approach. And there are other cases where it is conversational. A bad analogy is when you call some major company, like I'll say a cable company, because that's what causes this one, I think. And they're like, "What telephone number are you calling from?" And they expect you to actually say the number.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I enter the number on the keypad because I know that there are going to be times when I'll say it and it's not going to pick it up properly. It's going to repeat it to me, repeat it wrong, and I'm going to have to do it all over again. Whereas if I just enter it, then I know it's right.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. I do think Alexa's a little further along on the voice recognition than those IVRs are. But there are certainly places where things can get misheard.
Well, let's rewind this, because this is completely unstructured, and I dove in with a negative issue at the beginning, like you said. Let's go back to where you got started with Alexa, why you did. I mean, we're both older developers. This is a brand new interface that really is kind of on the cutting edge of users and computers. When did you get started with Alexa? Why did you get started with Alexa over Google, Apple wasn't even available. So, kind of rewind how you got into Alexa in the first place.
Well, you left off Bixby, which is Samsung's version, and you left off Cortana as well, which is Microsoft's version.
Thanks for telling me that they exist.
Bixby is the one that I can't even begin to understand, but we won't go down that road. Yeah. So 6 to 9 months ago, somewhere in that time frame, I don't know where it came up. I was doing something, and all of a sudden I had the idea of an Alexa skill. No, in fact, I do know. I do remember now. So as you're well aware, and as you take ample time to poke fun at, I am a high school football official. So at this time last year, I was sitting there going, I know I need to get into the rule book and I need to study it over the summer so I know it backwards and forwards. But there's only so much of reading a rule book that can get me so far. What can I do to make it interactive? And so sometimes you think of, okay, I can build a website and just quiz it that way. But then I was like, yeah, but that's also something that Alexa could do. It's something that any voice tool can do is kind of have a quiz format.
Yeah.
So I started to build out just a quick little skill to quiz me on a few things. You got involved at about the same time trying to do something with the Chicago Metro system, telling you when the best train to catch based on your walk time from your apartment and so on and so forth. Neither one of us got very far. I actually got my skill published based on a limited set of questions, but didn't go any further with it.
Yeah.
So did that, and that helped, and then put that on the shelf for a little while I was heads down on some other stuff. And then all of a sudden, I started to get the itch again, where I was like, this feels like an actual idea. This idea of vocational training, for lack of a better word, vocational training using voice tools.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not something where you're going to have the device lecture you. But on the other hand, it's certainly something when I'm just sitting on my computer doing something, I'm sitting in my family room doing something. You can even get it on your phone. There are even little, I'm about to dive real deep into it. There's even a car charger that you can plug into the charging port of the car. That's an actual Alexa device, and it has USB ports to charge your phone. So you can install skills on that thing. So you can even be in your car using Alexa skills. It's in GPS. It's all over the place.
Now, to be fair, I've had professors that Alexa could teach better than Pat. So she may not understand everything I ask questions about, but it'd be better than some of the responses that I've received from professors in the
and maybe we'll get into a little bit of the design, but that does not match the best practices from a design to have the device lecturing to you.
Well, no, I think let's go into this real quick. What I've noticed, like when I am in a coffee shop that's near a college, like DePaul or downtown Chicago, you'll see people from Northwestern that are studying, University of Chicago students, and you'll see two people sitting together, and you can clearly tell they are studying for a test, and they've got flashcards, and they're talking to the other person and trying to get them to, like, here's a hint, now tell me the full answer. Here's a hint. Here's a stimuli. Tell me here are 3 distractors. Give me the right one, multiple choice. You can see that these are automated. Like, I need another person to be the person that presents me the information and then allows me to verify if I give the right answer. That's where I see like a voice interface becoming that extra person instead of needing a human to read crap off a card.
Right. That's exactly it. You don't need your friend to sit there and read a card. A computer can do that really easily. And I've even got the roadmap built out for different types of questions, right? So to add variety to the whole thing, because that's how you keep it fresh is to add the variety. So I certainly think it belongs there. Now, in this case, what I'm going to try and do is the idea is I'm going to take this skill, I'm going to build a nice prototype. I'm going to do some video recording of using it on just a plain Echo, an Echo Show, the app on the phone, and even potentially, like I said, a car charger one to show you can even be doing this in the car, although I may not do that one just because there are people would argue that's not safe to be occupying your brain with other things besides driving when you're in a car. So I may not do that one, but to make a video of all to show the variety of places you could be doing this. And then take that to the leading company that puts out content for football officials and say, hey, this is something that I've built. I'm going to go forward with it. I'd like you to come along with me on this ride, so that I don't have to make the content myself. I can use your resources to use the content, and we'll split the proceeds from that, and you'll get a little bit of brand recognition as well. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, it is right now, it's in a place I could make that video now. I want to do just a little work on the variety of questions, but I don't even necessarily think that's needed for the demo to work well.
So let's get into the pieces. Like, what is Amazon giving you? What are you using to make this prototype even work?
I'm gonna answer that in a direction. We'll see if it went the direction that you were intending by the question. So when you talk about building a skill, there are lots of ways to build skills for the Echo. Mm-hmm. They've actually built a whole skill builder interface on one of their websites. And we can include the links in the show notes. That requires very little, if any, actual code. It's very flowcharty. You say, if you hear this, then go this direction and respond with this, that sort of thing. So you can build some simple skills without even really introducing any code. You just click and drag and click and all that. So, and then that would install all that information on a Lambda server that they have. And the way, obviously, Amazon has everything set up to stay within their ecosystem. You can serve it outside their ecosystem. I'm not sure it's wise to do so. Just because I think you might as well keep it all in their ecosystem just to keep everything easy. So they provide that interface. That interface also has plenty of testing tools. It has plenty of things to build out the different pieces. And without going into a whole tutorial on Echo Skills, you have various pieces. You have your intents, which are the things you're saying and what the system needs to be looking for, and then it'll generate responses based on which intent it slotted you into. So that's one of the things to work out, and that's one of the things that they provide as well. So that's on the non-coding side to some degree. On the coding side, they actually just released version 2 of the Skills Kit Sdk, which is a pretty good upgrade to the version 1 they had. It's a little bit easier to work with, and it seems to me like somebody within the group said we need to really turn up the volume on our education of the public on how to use it. Because they have come out. So there is a Alexa Dev Chat podcast that's been going on for more than a year. That one's been around. It releases every couple weeks. It's not real. There's not a lot to it as far as There are some people like us that release once a week. There are some people that release daily. This is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. You're going to get a new podcast. And that's from David Spitsky, who's one of the leads. And I'm going to totally mess up people's titles. So, I'm going to apologize to everybody that we mention along the way.
I call them developer advocates is usually the fallback.
Right. The developer evangelists, almost all of them are developer evangelists. It's just a question of how high up the hierarchy they are. Some of them are very high up. Some of them are a little lower down. So that's one is the podcast. Another one that's been around a while is their blog posts. Their blog posts have always been out there.
Yeah.
I have seen a concentrated effort to ramp that up as well. It's now, I believe I'm seeing one post a day from somebody on the team about some aspect of it. So what that's doing is that's updating all the information that was out there. When you tried to Google Alexa skills, you'd get stuff from version 1, you'd get stuff from 2016, which isn't going to do you any good nowadays because things have changed so much. By producing so much content, they're pushing the relevant content to the top, which is helpful when you're searching for answers. The one that I think is just that I can't speak highly enough of is the Twitch channel that they have. So. Yeah. They started this a couple months back, and it started slowly. And you would see various people on there. I believe Jeff Blankenberg was one of the ones who started on there. But then all of a sudden, when they released, and the timing's not quite right, but when they released the ability for in-skill purchases, all of a sudden you had at least 3 different ongoing series of videos going on to where they had 3 different series. One was Jeff Blankenberg and a couple of developers. One was Cassidy Williams and Cami Williams, 2 of the evangelists. One's an evangelist and I believe Cassidy is like the project manager or the product manager. And then you had name is escaping me. I don't know why his name is escaping me. But you had one other set with a Kirsch and Memo Doring, and it's going to kill me that I can't remember the main guy's name.
Memo Doring?
Memo Doring, correct.
What is that?
That's a person's name.
Oh, that's a name. I thought that was a technique. Like
no, that's a person's name. So we're going to apologize to Memo for completely messing that up. But yeah, no, I'm trying to scroll through really quick to see Paul Cutzinger. That's his name. There we go. Okay. I knew I'd find it eventually. So what they do is like I said, there are 3 different series. So they're all building different things. And the one with Paul Cutzinger and a Kirsch and Memo, there were probably 5 or 6 of these hour to 2 hour videos where they did very little coding. A lot of it was, here's how we design a skill. So you've got to be really invested in this. You have to be really wanting to do this the right way to sit through those episodes.
Sure.
But if you do, what you will see is you will see people who have the knowledge of how skills should be built are sitting there showing you how to design a skill. Yeah. How to look for all the interact and there'll be comments just off the cuff that are probably throwaway comments for them, but it means so much to somebody who's learning it. And it's more of a, oh yeah, if we pursue that line of communication, we're going to end up with you having to use yes, no intents. And from what I can gather, you want to avoid using a yes, no intent as much as you can, because if all you're looking for is yes and no, the thing to remember about an Alexa skill is The Alexa skill is only looking for the intent. So if you say yes, it's like, okay, I heard a yes. Let's go do something with that.
Yeah.
If you've got questions sprinkled throughout your skill that where the answer could be yes, you then have to take that yes and figure out where they were answering.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very much and that's something you don't necessarily think of until you see these people who've done this.
Well, there's a sidebar to this whole thing that I don't want to talk too much of focus on it, except that you're talking about Twitch and watching developers code and talk through issues. I have started to, like, in the last year and a half, and especially after I taught my class, realize, whoa, wait a second. Watching live coding and watching developers do their jobs is by far the most efficient means of getting better at your job in this field. Mainly because watching people make mistakes is both, it gives you the right to make mistakes in your own mind, but it also allows you to avoid those mistakes going forward. So hearing people in the Alexa, and that, honestly, that was a big problem when I was setting up my own version of an Alexa skill, was constantly trying to rethink, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? What do the experts know that I don't know? And reading a blog post is a long way to get to that point versus I truly feel like in a video format or a screen format, a developer can transmit to a viewer problem solution much, much more efficiently. So that's why I'm going to
quibble with efficiently. I think it's a different dynamic. So let's break, because I did want to go here. So this is not a sidebar at all.
Okay.
It is incredible. I'm going to get back to my point in a second, but it is incredibly encouraging and insightful to see again people working for Amazon who sit there and know how the SDK is built. Watching them struggle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to know this. This shouldn't be coming easier to me. Yeah. Now the part I'm going to quibble with you on about efficiency, if I have a problem with, I'm going to use a perfect example of something that a couple of them were just struggling with. And of course I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's a request interceptor. And the idea is when the request comes in, when your command comes in, to intercept that before it does any other processing, we're going to do some pre-processing. It's essentially all it is. Yeah. Okay. There is nothing on this Twitch page that would tell me what video to go watch to learn about request interceptors. Whereas a blog post that talks about request interceptors is a lot more efficient in terms of finding it. So yes, as far as learning about it, if you can find it, yes, absolutely. Watching them struggle through it and watching them build it will convey the information better most of the time than a blog post, give or take the fact that people learn differently. But it's certainly not efficient. I've had to invest a lot of my time in watching these videos, not knowing exactly what I was going to learn today, but knowing that I was going to learn.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
That it's not efficient, but it's certainly I'm actually excited. It's made me really want to dive into this, and I don't have the time. I've got got other businesses I'm running. We've got chasms we're trying to get to a nice nice state to where we can say, this is a product that we can go forward with. And if there's interest, we'll build from here. And we're not quite there yet. We got that. We got to get wrapped up. If I could wrap up all these other loose ends, then yeah, I'm gonna dive into this, because I think we're going to get back to me preaching again. I do think we're at the beginning. You said it, and I'm going to back up what you said. We're at the beginning, but that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
When you're the developer, that's a great place to be. There was a conference last week, VoiceCon, held in New York. Gary Vaynerchuk was the one who pulled it together. Had a number of speakers there about how voice is the next medium. I chose not to go, because the cost was just not something I wanted to invest at this moment.
Yeah.
And B, I can argue either side of. The topics were less developer driven and more industry driven. So a lot of the speakers were media company and how do they use it, which would have been useful. And if I had gone with business cards and a shirt, I might have made contacts and say, hey, we're looking to build something. Can you build this for us? I might have been able to make contacts in that way.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that we were at a place to take on that sort of work.
Oh, yeah.
Yet. Now, in the middle of June, I'm going up to Washington. I can't convince you to come with me to go to an Alexa Dev Days, which is essentially just a day where they'll have a couple of these evangelists. One of them I mentioned already, Kirsch, will be there teaching how to use it. Now, there are two levels. There are some that are introduction, some that are advanced. This is an advanced day. So I'm going to go up there. And the idea is that you go up there and you learn, and you might have an idea in mind, and you spend the day hacking on it and getting help and using whatever methods they're giving to you during the day to talk about it, and you show it off at the end of the day. So I'm going to try and have something ready. It won't be this referee skill, because that's already going to be down the road a bit, I think. Although we may see it may come up.
Yeah.
But I'm already going to have an idea in place to go forward with, so that I can use the most of that day and see what comes out of it and see what I learn.
So outside, I agree. I feel like my experience with Amazon Web Services was, I think the SDK for AWS got really great at the third version. So if we're at version 2 on Alexa, there's one more release that will be like, okay, they have reached a level of stability in the SDK. But I guess my question now is, where, based on what you've seen, what is Alexa or Echo succeeding really well at, and what demographic is using it? Because I still assume that this is used by kids more than adults on a routine, great scale. I go walk into homes all the time, and I see these devices sitting on people's counters, and I'm always like, how are people using this? Because I do not feel engaged. Like, I don't feel like the experience is worth my time at the moment to play music with this device, because I can hop on my computer and just say, choose Spotify songs faster than Alexa could ever pull them up. So what have you seen that has motivated you, or that has been to you promising, like, we see a lot of usage in this particular field by this particular demographic? Is there any of that kind of rhetoric that's supporting that this is growing, other than we have this many devices out in the world? So
I want to come back. Don't let me forget to address your comment about version 3 of the SDK, because there's something to talk about there. To answer your question, I still think it's very nichey. I don't think there is no killer app yet that everybody's like, oh, you got to have an Alexa Echo so that you can do this. There are toy things you can do. There are niche things you can do. The official skill I'm talking about is a niche skill. I don't expect millions of users. I expect a few hundred if I'm successful. The skills you see talked about as the most popular ones, and I can pull up a list of the top skills, but one of them is Jeopardy. So Jeopardy puts out just a small little Jeopardy quiz that you can run. You'll say, Alexa, play Jeopardy. And you'll get 2 or 3 questions with Alex Trebek reading you the questions with the Jeopardy music, and you get to play Jeopardy at home. So that's one of the more popular skills. I'm going to dispute your statement that you can pull up music faster on Spotify than I can on Alexa. If we were to say go and you were to try and do it and I were to try and do it, I would literally have to say, Alexa, play my station on Pandora, and music would play. And I'd be done.
No. The music I want to play.
That's on my station. Now, if you're talking about a specific song.
Yeah, that's my point.
I can say, Alexa, play my station on Spotify, or play 90s music on Spotify. You can certainly say that, and it'll turn on, and you'll be done. And that's faster than hunting through the interface on the computer. So I think that's another use. It's a use I used to have with it. I have it less now, mainly because whenever I'm playing music, I'm trying to isolate myself. So I need to put my headphones on. But there are others. They just had a contest for a release of kids skills. So they've been trying to push kids skills for engaging kids. One of the more popular ones was Kids Court, which was essentially a skill to help resolve a dispute between 2 kids. That was one of the skills that won. It's certainly worth going through the skills section on Amazon and just seeing what's out there. You might, where I found it is I found things that are interesting. I've not found anything that I use daily. The thing I used the most daily was the Pandora skill. I'd be like, okay, Alexa, play my music on Pandora. But then I got away from that. I've used
as a parent, how do you prevent your kid now having a third parental unit deciding things when, like, you know, if you're a kid, you know, you go to your mom about these issues, go to dad about these issues. Now you've got Alexa as a judge on sibling disputes. Where do you draw the line on Alexa parenting your kids? That's the next question. But
for sure.
But I think, you made a statement that's really what I was getting to. What's the killer app for this right now? Because I'm still looking for it. I'm still looking for, I've got this device sitting on my desk, and half the time I'm telling it to shut up. Like, I believe this is the future of voice interfaces are the future. They're also the wonder of sci-fi. We always see people talking to computers on sci-fi, and it's like, well, yeah, if you film someone talking to a blank wall and then go back and edit it, it looks like it works great. But I'm looking for that killer app, and I want to know the demographic and why it's a killer app. Gaming, like you said, entertainment is typically the first driving force of almost all technology. It's a very important piece to get adoption quick and fast amongst the younger crowd. But I'm still like, without a screen, you're taking a big chunk out of the entertainment piece. So, yeah, I'm still waiting for that killer app to be revealed.
Yeah, and I think we're a ways away. I think we're a ways away because nobody's figured it out. Amazon is pushing like heck to get people to build stuff. They almost every month they will have something that they say, hey, if you publish a skill this month, you'll get a hat, socks, a shirt, a backpack, an Echo Dot. That they keep trying to get skills out there. So what they're ending up with is they're ending up with a lot of weak skills because people are just building them just to get the perk. But I also think they're trying to drive people to just build, with the idea that somebody will come across the killer app, whatever it is. Now this kind of dovetails into me wanting to get back to what you said about version 3.
Sure.
For sure that the SDK that's out there right now isn't the final version. It will improve. It's improved from version 1. Where I think we are, and where I think developers who have the interest should look at is, we're not there yet. But if you get in there now and you understand how all this works, when that switch finally flips, and everybody figures out what voice is used for, you're going to have a skill set that you can market yourself with. And you're going to have the ability to go out there and say, hey, I can build these skills. You see how company A and company B used it to drive their growth. I can do the same for you. If you're talking to a company, or you can build your own skill and just get people to pay for it. So, I don't think Amazon has the answer yet. I think they're throwing stuff up against the wall, and they're going to see what sticks.
So we will definitely talk about Alexa in the future because we're developing these things. And I want to wrap this up with the question of, talk to me about the alternatives a little bit. Google,
for sure.
Google's got one. You talked about Bixby and Cortana, and then what I think is, like, almost without having done any research, Apple seems woefully behind on all of this. So what's your opinion of the landscape outside of Alexa right now?
So there was just a report released yesterday that, and I'm going to state it, and I'm going to state it wrong, but we'll just go with it. That Google Home actually sold more speakers in the previous month than Amazon Echo did. Now, to me, that can be interpreted 1,000 ways. So we'll put a link in the show notes to the details on that. But Google Home's not going away. Mm-hmm. The Google Assistant is not going away. I use the Google Assistant all the time on my phone. I have Android Auto in my car. So there's nothing that, and I know there are people that build skills that will build the skills abstracted enough to where it can work with Alexa or Google. And that's probably what I'll do with the referee skill as well, so that people can use it wherever. So I would say Google's right there. Google does not have the same push. And as much as I've always loved the innovation that Google's shown and a lot of the products they put out, we talked previously about how Google now also has that reputation of pushing stuff and then throwing it away. So I don't see Amazon throwing this away. I don't know where Google is going to go with this.
I was wrong about Apple. I mean, they've got Siri, and Siri really was the forefront of all of this.
I'm going to get to Siri in a minute, but it's going to be last for a reason.
Okay.
So the others are Cortana, which is at Microsoft, which is in all Windows 10 computers. It's one of the things you turn off when you install Windows 10. But Microsoft does have a relationship with Amazon to where they're talking about letting the two talk to each other. So you can ask Cortana for an Alexa skill and it'll come up. I have not messed with it enough, but from what I understand, it's a little rough. Samsung, we'll talk about Samsung and Apple together. No, we won't. We'll talk about Apple last. Samsung has Bixby. Anybody who has a Galaxy phone has Bixby on their phone. It's one of the things I turned off to begin with. Literally, one of the buttons on my phone is a button that will wake up Bixby for me. So I can press the button and Bixby will do stuff. Again, it's not useful.
Yeah.
And again, it's narrow ecosystem. Amazon's got a great ecosystem. Google's probably got a decent ecosystem. What is Samsung's ecosystem? I have no clue, and I don't plan on spending any time finding out, because I as many Samsung phones that are out there, I'm just not seeing it at the moment.
Well, you don't go to Samsung for software. I mean, like everything. Anytime you hear about Samsung software, it's in disaster mode. Like something's screwed up. Like you don't.
You can say that, but you say that from the standpoint of an iPhone user. I'm an Android user.
No, I'm talking about as a developer.
I understand, but hold on. But on the Android side, they've put out some really good Android software. So if you're saying from the developer side, trying to work with them, yeah, I know nothing about that.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. From the I know nothing about that. And it, like I said, I have no interest in even diving into Bixby, because any skills I build on Alexa, I'm going to port over to Google Home, and then I'll decide where to go from there. Bixby maybe last on the list. So let's get to Apple, and then we'll wrap up. You're right that Siri was kind of the first one to come out. But you do not hear a lot about building skills for Siri, because I'm not sure it's something you can do. I actually don't know. But because it's so quiet, that makes it interesting. Is it quiet because they're not doing anything and nobody cares? Or is it quiet because they're working feverishly on something and they're going to come out with their full Apple armada here shortly and say, hey, look at what you can do with Siri now, and look at how you can program for Siri?
I don't know. Apple, it works for them and against them. The way that they treat developers. Apple treats developers as we really need a bunch of apps, so yeah, we need to work with you all. But if there's at any point that we feel you all are sheep. We don't feel like you are as smart as us. We feel like we can build it better. It goes in with the Jobs approach. It goes in with they're the most successful company, and they do it their way, and it makes billions. So I'm not trying to argue that their philosophy is completely dumb. It's just more of they treat developers as we need you for scale, but we'd rather just build our own apps, and the crap you all build is just along for the ride. Now, you can say they've changed that. They've introduced Swift. They are starting to allow progressive web apps. They're starting to make things easier. But when it comes to new technologies, they don't trust the developer community to do much. And so Amazon, as a matter of practices, you all are our guinea pigs. We're going to keep our R&D low by letting you all do it for us. And Apple is like, we are the design kings, and our philosophy is we built Siri to do what we need, and we don't need you to do it for us. Right now, the way that they release their home app, their home application appliance, seems to be a complete failure, and it does not look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I before, I don't want to devolve into an hour-long discussion on my hatred of Apple, but I certainly feel, and it's so funny, but I certainly feel like Apple right now is turning into the Microsoft of the 2000s. Their ego is leading them places where their ego's leading them away from the market.
Yeah.
they continue to sell iPhones like crazy. Well, Windows continued to sell. Microsoft continued to sell Windows like crazy. That doesn't mean anything. It means inertia is what it means. I'll be interested to see where Apple is 5 years from now, just because I just don't know what's going to happen.
I think there's a risk in being so isolated from the community, which is what Microsoft did under Ballmer. We build it our way, and that's the way it's going to be. We're making enough money we don't need to question that. But the problem is when you go down the wrong path, you don't have anyone to tell you you're wrong until it catches up to you.
Right.
That's the problem I think they're doing, and that's what Microsoft did. Microsoft is changing that. Like, I don't know much about Cortana, but if you were to tell me you need to make a bet today on Cortana versus Siri, I'd be like, I'll bet on Cortana, because I see the see the Microsoft community getting smarter about things compared to what they were a decade ago.
I trust Microsoft as a company more right now, because of everything they've done in the last year or 18 months. I trust Microsoft's openness more, the fact that they're partnering with Amazon on this voice stuff. Whereas Apple's going to do it on their own, and they're going to do whatever the heck they want. So I'm completely in agreement with you on that.
And the other thing is that Apple's not releasing new stuff. Like, they released the Watch 2 years ago. Like,
right.
Even when they released Maps and it was failing, you at least saw some innovation come out. I wasn't shocked that Maps failed at the beginning. I was like, okay, this is hard. I mean, your competitor, Google Maps, has 3 years on you. But now it's like they aren't even releasing new stuff that have bugs. It's like, wow, your version of the Apple TV has more memory in 4K. Whoop. Like, how about making the best TV experience ever? And they're not doing it. Right. Roku and Amazon and Fire Stick are doing that stuff. So, yeah, we've gone down this really deep hole that's completely away from Alexa. But I think this is a very telling space that we are on the cusp of a new interface for users to interact with computers, away from a keyboard, away from a mouse. And all these companies are trying to ace it because it's going to be very important to do so. And so you could see, like, if voice is truly the gateway for the future of user computer technology interfaces, which company does it right is a big question. So I guess maybe we're not delving that far away. But
I don't think we are. I think we're just talking about more the macro at the moment, and who we trust to get you to the macro.
Well, we have probably gone on long enough for this old app episode, probably the longest we've done. But you're going to go to DC. We'll continue to talk about the referee umpiring stuff, and we will get back to this in the future. There's lots to talk about, lots of progress being made, and we'll have more to. Well,
I also want to come back from DC with a commitment from a guest to join us.
Oh yeah,
so that's going to be one of my goals when I go to DC too, is see if we can't get somebody to come on from the Alexa team to talk to us.
Cool. So. All right. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good. Bye.
Thanks for listening to This Old App. Show notes and previous episodes can be found on our website at www.thisoldapp.online. Reviews on Apple iTunes are always appreciated and help promote the show. For questions, comments, or things you would like to hear on future shows, please email us at hello@thisoldapp.online. Show music is Guns Blazing by Fab Claxton, licensed by Pond 5. Voiceover work by MakenVoices.com. You'll hear from us soon.